Hi everyone, welcome back to Stormworks Build and Rescue, and welcome back to part 2 of the hospital ship build. Now, if you remember, in part 1, we built this. So, this is the hull, this is what we're going to be working on, and today we're going to be building a sort of start to the superstructure. Now, I have a bit of a plan in mind. As you can see, we've got the place where we marked out previously the different decks. So, that will be the bridge deck, that'll be the bridge below, or below the bridge deck. This will be this deck, and then down here will be two decks. There'll be, let's just no clip through. If we go in here, it gives us a better idea. So we've got a deck there, and then we've got a deck there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decks. So going from the top deck, which will have the bridge, then the rest of the decks will be mostly hospital stuff, so wards and like operating theatres and all the type of things you have on a hospital, and that'll take up a lot of the space because obviously it's a hospital ship. We want it to be able to be used for that. And then at the lowest levels we'll have most of the crew accommodation, and then the engines will be about here. This level here will probably be like surgery places and all that kind of stuff, and above it will be sort of like wards and that kind of stuff, within like the canteen and all that kind of stuff up higher. And I did sort of explain it in the last episode, but if we go back to the front here and look, we want everything to be kind of as close to the water line as possible. This blue line is our water line. We want everything that's sort of you need a steady hand for as close to the water line as possible, so like theatres for surgery, because we don't want the boat rock. The boat doesn't rock as much at them places. If you consider up at the top, the boat will sway a lot more from the top's kind of perspective than it will down here. It's still rocking the same amount, it's just that that amount is less kind of, it's less felt at that lower level. So we don't need to wait around, we may as well just get building. Now I sort of filled that section in there but then deleted it again just as a wee test, but we need to get rid of all this stuff here as well. So I'm going to start back here because this is a kind of important area for outside stuff. Everything else is inside mostly, and it'll just be a big block on a ship, like a big sort of apartment block on a ship nearly, whereas here we'll have sort of ship like things on it. So just to give me an idea of what we're working with, I'm going to draw myself a kind of crude water line around there, and that'll let me know what's happening and what our kind of limits are. But if you'll remember last time I mentioned that we need to be able to fit 2 of these boats, well, modified versions probably, but we need to fit 2 of these boats on the back. So these boats will sit off center to allow for stuff to go on the other side as well. So if we imagine them sitting there, although actually it needs to be further forward because we'll need the corners free for mooring equipment and that kind of stuff. So we'll have it a bit further forward, a bit further into the side, and we'll paste that and maybe have them facing sort of away from each other, because then they can get a bit closer. Yeah, that might be a good idea. So we'll have them 2 boats there and a crane here. Now the crane will be able to then lift up these boats and put them in the water when they need it, and then the superstructure should start somewhere here. Now obviously get rid of this bit here so you can still walk around, maybe have a bit of a gap in between so you can walk through, but we might not need it. What we will need is the deck level, so we'll pull that out to there, and that'll let us know where we need to put the floor. Now that's not going to work because that doesn't fit. Sort of reconsidered, and I'm sort of thinking one of these boats might be better, just because gives us more room to kind of mess about and put stuff there. And we could also tow a boat maybe, but that's a decision for later. So this way we could maybe make it into a bigger boat. We can make this boat bigger and then still use as much of the space as possible. And we can move that a bit further forward as long as we can get past it, and the crane can sit on this side then that's perfect. I'll probably clear that away in a second anyway, just once I get a kind of general idea of what we're building. But yeah, if that's there, that's all right. So let's build up to our deck level then. So here, and then we want, say, a 5-block gap between the side of the boat and the main superstructure, but that will increase about here because we're going to have a rescue zone about here. So the rescue zone is just like a kind of lowered area, and it just makes it easier for casualties to get on board the boat. So if we add another 5 to that then, and then that makes it a 10-block gap, and is that one 5? Okay, perfect. So put that along maybe 7 meters. That should be plenty. And put them like that. And this will be kind of like the door in basically. So like a reception kind of place where you'll be signed into the hospital kind of side of things. So I've sort of been debating what way to do this. I want it to be kind of like you can park the boat up here. So this boat here, once it's been launched, you can park it here. And also maybe we should have it asymmetrical. So asymmetrical, basically it isn't symmetrical, which would mean that it's different on this side than it is that side, which would actually be pretty cool. Only thing is then it limits how much you can do because you always need to park on a certain side then. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, probably. So okay, we'll come back to that because we don't need to worry about that yet. All we need is the basic outline. And so in my fairly vague plan of what I have in mind for this ship, we have 15 meters from the back. Probably won't be because it's too big, but okay, there's 15 meters. Damn, that's really not enough space. Could cut this back a wee bit. So if that's currently 5.5 meters, we'll cut it back to 3 meters. We want this to kind of curve up, just to give it a good, nice kind of look to it. So we'll do a few of these blocks here, and that will just curve it up into the ceiling. And then the next deck will come out here. Perfect. So that is deck 1, and then this bit here will kind of stretch back over this area and then maybe be supported by a block at the back, something like that. Yeah, looks not bad. And then we'll do the same thing up here, but first of all we need to get a helicopter. I showed this helicopter as an example last week because it's a very nice helicopter. I quite like this one, and it's a good size as well. It's not too big, but it's not sort of too small for this kind of job. So I want to use this as a kind of example helicopter for one that we maybe will make at some point. And if we use it as our guidelines, we need to have enough room for obviously the blades. So if we cover up to there, and that becomes our wall of the superstructure, will that be enough room for the helicopter? I think it will be. So for this test we've moved over to the creative island, and that just means we can spawn it on here without too much of an issue. Now if we look at the kind of design we've got already, the helicopter has a good bit of space between it and the main superstructure there. And also to remember is the helipad will extend out a wee bit, so the helipad will kind of hang over the back rather than sit on top. So if we just open these doors, however we do that, and turn on our electrics. Okay, parking brake is not on. Okay, let's put the parking brake on. Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do this and then we can test it out. Right, so helicopters in the air. Now I'll admit I'm not fantastic at flying these. So if we just kind of take ourselves back a wee bit and imagine we're coming in with patients onto this onto this hospital ship, for medical attention. Well, obviously medical attention, it's a hospital ship. So we come in, we kind of pull back a bit to slow ourselves down, and then we lower ourselves down while making sure our wheels are still on the ground. There we go. And then we would turn off our helicopter all the way down. Go. And we would get out and bring them to the medical center. So if that tells us shown us anything, this type of helicopter is going to be perfectly fine because you've got space. Obviously it's going to be different out at sea. You've got less space and your boat's rocking and there's wind, all that kind of stuff. But the basic premise works, that there's enough room. So I'm happy enough with that for now. We will need to build a an actual helipad though. So that'll be the next big thing to do. Okay, so helipad is out of the way. And now we can get back to building. Now, what I've thought about is that we obviously need somewhere to come off the helipad, which is why, another reason why I think we should make this asymmetric. So if it's asymmetric, we can have the helipad access on one side, and then on the other side we can have the dock. Now, this just means that the helipad has plenty of space. You can get land on the helipad without the worry about landing on a railing or something like that, and then the people can be brought around that side to be brought inside to get help. So if we bring up the rest of the superstructure to the kind of level that it's going to be at, I think up to here will be the level of the main superstructure. Okay, that's pretty tall, but that's a good thing, I suppose. And then we'll bring up the side walls as well, just to give us an idea. Then you've got this deck here. Now this deck here isn't going to be much good on this side of the ship, but what I'm thinking is maybe have life rafts or something here, just for looks, and then maybe one on this side, but mainly on this side it's going to be the helipad access. So we have everything here in place for the sort of step down into the boat. Now we need to work out what that's going to look like. So ideally we want it to be that someone getting off a boat at this level here. So if we imagine that boat is 3 blocks high, or the tubes of the boat are 3 blocks high and they sit above the water, so 3 blocks. We want it to be able to be easy for someone to step off at that level and maybe step onto a little ledge here maybe. And then from that ledge they can then be sort of helped up steps. Now the steps don't need to be kind of shallow steps, they can be steep steps. Or actually what the steps could do is go, I've got a few steps here as an example, and we're going to place these in a way that they can kind of look like I imagine they could do on the real thing. So you end up making the platform smaller, which is good because it uses less space, and then you've got a nice safe passage to get up, and the rib can come in alongside and then people can just walk up steps. So that's a lot easier than I originally had in mind. So we'll go for that. So after a few minutes kind of fiddling around with railings and stuff like that, that is what I've got for the platform. Now, to kind of make it a bit better, we're going to spawn in the rib, and that'll give us a better idea of what it will look like with the rib alongside. So we have our rib now at the level it will sit at. So you can kind of see the rib will come alongside, you'll step up and you'll get off the rib on to the steps and then in through the doors here. So obviously we don't want the rib just sitting right up beside the ship, so we're going to want some kind of buffer in place. Now we're going to put in these blocks here as the sort of front buffer, and we want them sort of along the bottom then. Now these actually I'm just thinking should be on both sides because we might have something similar along the other side, we don't know yet. So if we just run like a kind of black line all the way up to the front, and the idea is that this looks like the sort of rubber buffer you see on the side of big anchor handling tugs or offshore supply vessels and that kind of thing. And we just run the big kind of rub rails up the side. Now this is something I learnt off a Discord server. the rub rails always need to be facing forward. That way, if they get caught on something, they push the ship up. So say you come in and they hit a jetty or something, or they hit a pier as you come in, they aren't going to push the ship down and under it. They're going to push it up and over it. So that's pretty interesting. And yeah, it's one of them things that you would never think of it, but once you hear it, really, it makes sense. You can see why that's the case. Now, we're going to have a few more of them in this area than we do in the front, and also probably on the other side as well, because we want the rib to park here, obviously. But as well as them, we're going to be having kind of buffers as part of this. So what we're going to use for that is empty microcontrollers. So if I can find my microcontrollers, we'll just go to one that is empty. So there we go. There's a 6x2 one. We'll actually modify them because we don't want them that big. And to modify them, we'll just go in here, change that to 1. And now we have 1x3s. So they will be kind of propped up along the side, and they just kind of support the rib moving up and down. Means it doesn't crash into the side of the boat. Beside them, we will then have tie downs, so rope anchors that we can use as cleats and tie the rib up so it doesn't drift away, and it doesn't drift away when someone's getting off it, because then they just end up falling in, which isn't ideal. So we'll put one of them on each side. I've turned symmetry off for this because we don't want this on the other side really. And we'll have them all facing up the way just for neatness. Now when we spawn the rib in, the rib will kind of sit alongside and it'll not sort of bump off them then. We should maybe have it a bit thicker in this area so it kind of stops the rib getting caught underneath, because that's a concern too. Obviously you make sure the rib's not going to get damaged in the process of coming alongside, and that it's not going to get trapped and get people on board it even more injured than they are for why they're coming to the hospital. Okay, so something like that just kind of protects underneath the rib as well. So I think we can call that done, but let me know what you think in the comments, and if we don't like it we can change it, but for now I think that'll do for that. So if we then look on this side, we've got the rub rails along the side. Can get rid of these because we don't need them here. And yeah, that's not bad. So up at the top and at the end of the rub rail, I've just added these wee bits in so that they don't just suddenly stop and cause a big flat surface. So just to make them look a bit more sort of neat and natural, which I think should do the job quite well. Now back on to the main superstructure. If we have a door here, which we will. Okay, we'll put the window on the other side then. So we'll have a hinge door so you can see out, and we'll have it up at that level there. And then we'll have a few more of these along the way so that you can continue to kind of look out and see who's coming in. That door will then open out of the way and you'll be able to come in. Sort of thinking maybe we should make a bigger door though. Like a big, yeah, you know what, we will. Because I'm just thinking stretchers and stuff coming in. Obviously we can't do that in Stormworks, but realistically that's what will be happening. So let's get ourselves some door frames. And I'll put these in place. So the blue side indicates what way the door will open. So if the blue side's on this side, the door will open out that way, and vice versa if it's on the other side. So let's just fill up these bits here. Same thing applies then when we put our hinge in. There's the blue, and they sort of indicate then where it's going to end up. So let's put in our actual door. We'll put a big window in this so that everyone can look out and see what kind of stretchers coming in or what kind of patients coming in, and they can prepare everything for them. And also just lets light in then as well. So just like that, we have our custom door button on one side, and then you can open it out it'll sit flush against the wall and won't get in the way then. So we'll seal that up, and that area is then done. Another thing I'm thinking we should add here is a crane, so that you can hoist people in if they need it, but we'll not worry about that for now. What we will worry about though is ladders, because this is Stormworks and you can't really do anything like you should be able to. You always end up needing to climb up ladders to get on board ships and all that kind of stuff, so we'll just put a quick gap in the rub rail. Hopefully it won't affect its sort of usefulness. And then a ladder down, and we'll put a gap in between each one just to make it look a bit more natural, like that. So now we've got a ladder, and that area now I think is done for now, until we get down to more detailed stuff. In the spirit of kind of laying out the rest of the decks and stuff, I think we'll turn our symmetry back on for a start. We'll fill in up to there. Okay, so the rest of the superstructure then kind of goes up in the sort of shape you'd expect it to, and fills the space in and all that kind of stuff. And then here we'll have maybe steps coming down, because you need to be able to get down onto the lower decks and all that kind of stuff, so I think that's an important feature to have. What I'm also going to do, I had said about doing life rafts here, but we're going to put that on hold for now, because if you remember, I said about this side having helicopter access, so the steps won't be able to go, say we have steps down from the bow, they'll only be able to go here and then in the door that the helicopter goes in. Whereas on this side, I would like them to come all the way down, so we might take out an extra wee bit of room just to do that. So before we do any of that, I want to do the front. So I'm thinking maybe if we do the front, it'll give us a better idea of what space we have up on top as well then, and it means we'll be able to easier kind of figure out what other room we need then. So front will have 2 decks up, possibly we'll have a kind of step like this maybe, so might have like a step like that, but I'm not sure. We can deal with that in a second. The main thing about this area is though that the bridge will sit here. Now the bridge has to sit here because if you look at this pink bar, which kind of represents this represents the standard build area, we're very close to the top already, and we're also already on the bottom, so we're going to need to make this in a way that it can be folded, like the bridge can be folded down. So not the bridge, the mast and stuff can be folded down, so we absolutely cannot go any higher. That's our limit. So we're going to have a deck on this level as well, and it'll be mainly just like an observation deck kind of. So up on the front then, we've got a sort of rough layout. So we've got the main box here, so this will be the main box of the boat. Like I said earlier, it's basically an apartment block on a ship, so that's kind of what I'm going for here, and it looks the part already. So just fill in that gap to give us a better idea of the space we have. Once you're on this deck, you're going to be looking up, but you're not going to be looking at that. You're going to be looking at these parts here. So these will be kind of an extension of this deck, but will curve in to kind of accommodate the curve of the boat as they go. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in 5 blocks. So in line with this gap here, we're going to come in 5 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to select this, set it up so that it will go in this direction. And we'll use that as our guide in. Sort of got that a bit short, but we can deal with that. So that is going to be the shape of the front. It'll follow the shape, this shape here, and will be built up. So this front wall here will follow the shape of the side of the boat, and then as well as that, we'll step up. So up to about here maybe, if we look at it, we will have these, so to that point there, and that'll raise up even higher. But then ahead of that, we will only have the lower deck ones. So that just creates a bit of a look to the front of the ship, and also a wee bit of an observation deck out the front as well. So what we'll end up with an observation deck up here and down here. Don't know what they're going to be observing yet, but we'll figure that out when we need to. Now, my plan is that the bridge then will sit a bit further back. So that's probably not a very good place to put that because it's not going to show it properly, but we'll have a lot of space up here, and this will be a winch point. So this will be somewhere where you can bring someone that's needing to get off the ship quickly, but they're not like sort of in danger of like breaking a limb or something, and they can be winched away then and brought to safety without having to land the helicopter, or if it's a bigger helicopter maybe it can winch them up. So that's what up here will be used for, and the bridge will then sit about here. So the bridge shape will be kind of standard offshore supply ship shape. So if we think about our windows are 3 blocks wide, and then we'll have the 1 block gap in between for like a kind of mullion, and then another one, and then another gap. But at this gap we will have, oh no, this gap will have them, but then we will also have a turn in. So that turn in will go 3 blocks in and lead on to another section of them. Nope. So the bridge design we're kind of wanting is a sort of hexagon. So I'll just draw out a big pad here, and then we can kind of cut away from it, or no. So the bridge design I want is a kind of hexagon. So if we look at a picture, you'll see that the bridges on most of these offshore kind of supply ships and stuff kind of curve around, but then also stretch around overlooking the side then. And that's going to be important on this boat because you need to be able to see over the side when you're like coming into a dock or something like that, or up to another ship maybe if it needs to. So we'll start with that area because that's going to be kind of crucial to the design. So we'll start with here. So we'll put 8 blocks down, and that way we can fit 2 windows in the middle and then the glass bit at the, or not the solid bit at the side then. So like that, and then we'll have the window here and here, plus then having a window, oh, and then we'll have a window coming off the side as well, like that, looking over the side. And then as well as that, then we'll have a top window as well. So then we'll use one of these to start the kind of curve inwards, and we'll use wedge blocks then to get the sort of window tilting forward kind of look. So we'll use a 3x1. Ideally we would have other sizes in these, but they haven't added them to the game yet. Still waiting on that one, Stormworks devs. And then we're going to use these blocks here to build up the actual window so you can look out it. Then from here it'll curve inwards, so we'll use maybe one of these if it works. Not entirely sure, I'm just kind of going off, well, nothing really. It's probably why it's not going to work. But okay, we'll put in one of these as a placeholder for now then. And then this glass bit, or this solid bit, will come up like that. Will that work? Now, is this presented itself with another issue? We end up not being able to access the front deck from the back. So the idea is that there's going to be a lift shaft that will go up along with the funnel. So the funnel will sit maybe about here, and the lift shaft will be coming up along with it. And then that's how you would get patience up. But with this design, that's not going to work. Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. Okay, so I think I've thought up a solution to this issue. It does mean we're going to lose a wee bit of deck space on this deck here, but hopefully it'll be worth it for what we gain. So if we find out where our deck level is, because I've kind of lost it, there it is. And there we go. So here we will have a kind of exit on the deck, and that way you can take people up that way. Now we want to make this as small of a kind of payoff as possible because we want it to be that it doesn't get in the way of the rest of the interior. Obviously it needs to be big enough that you can open the door. I think you want the I want to open the door outwards, so we'll try there. Okay, and then we'll continue that forward. Now this will then go under the bridge and then come up at the front underneath it. That is my plan anyway. Whether or not it works, highly unlikely. So this area here will be blocked up to kind of support the bridge wing. Obviously it'll look better than that. We're just doing that as a kind of placeholder for now. Actually, I could only do this on one side. Maybe that would maybe work. Oh, I know what to do. Right, okay. We'll get rid of it on this side. And we'll do it on the other side where the other helipad stuff is. So that way, everything to do with helicopters, everything to do with medivacs, everything to do with that kind of stuff is all on the one side, and it all stays out of the way of other stuff. And it also helps us balance it out a bit because we've cut that bit off there and then we add the, I don't know. It might help, probably won't, but yeah. So we'll fence this area. Actually, no, we'll not fence it yet until we know what space we need. So the stairs are going to need to come up quite a bit, actually. That's 2 meters they need to come up. So where do they need to start so that you won't bang your head as you go up them? I think the Stormworks character is 6 blocks high, so they need to be up to there. Is that the right way of measuring that? I'm not entirely sure. It's not going to be the sort of widest passageway anywhere in the ship, but it'll be wide enough that you can walk through. I think that's good enough. Other thing this kind of does is makes the ship more interesting looking, just because you have stuff that's off-centered, I suppose. I don't know, sometimes that makes stuff look cool on a ship. Doesn't look like it's just been done with symmetry on the whole time. So, top tip for stuff like this, when you're doing enclosed steps like these so you don't see the other side of them, use these ones here. Now, what that means you can do is drag up wedges on the other side of them, and that means you won't see them from the inside of the boat. Now, it also saves a bit of resources because they're ever so slightly lighter on your computer than standard blocks, trying to fill up with blocks. Then it also saves space as well then. What we can also then do with this area is make another staircase that goes underneath, but we'll see about that closer to the time when we need to actually deal with that side of things. So anyway, we've got our helipad access in. Now we want to make this bit here look good. That's going to be possibly quite challenging. Maybe have that. I think we'll restart with the bridge because the bridge, yeah, it's a bit square looking. So this time I think what I'm going to try with the bridge is to make it a bit more curved. So make it a bit more sort of good looking. Because if it's just a big flat square, then it sort of looks a bit stupid. Although since saying that, and then I just build a big square on the boat. But it should all work out well, hopefully. But yeah, we want the bridge to look the part because it's going to be one of the places you're going to be spending the most amount of time when you're using the boat. So it's nice that it sort of reflects the nice looks of the boat overall. So we'll start with one of them in the center. Not really any particular reason why, but just because why not. And then we'll step it back one by doing this now. It'll be interesting to see how well this actually works because I'm not entirely sure about it. I've just had a bit of a brainwave that we don't actually need to use curved windows. We could just have flat windows, and probably not many people will mind. So with that idea in mind, I'm going to just use these smaller windows at the sort of base of it to give it the kind of impression that it leans forward, but it won't actually lean forward. I mean, it doesn't really affect the boat in Stormworks. In real life, obviously, it makes it easier for the windows to kind of dry after they get hit by a wave or something like that. Everything just runs down them easier and reflects glare and all that sort of stuff. But in Stormworks, we don't need to worry about that kind of thing. So why build the boat around it? So instead, we'll build it off what actually matters, and that's looks. So fill in that gap there and get more of these, and then run these along the side of the boat, gradually kind of going in further every time. So there and there. Alright, we're getting somewhere now. So we've got that kind of more nicer looking curve rather than just a big flat front on it, and every kind of step back it gets a wee bit further back and curves back towards the back of the boat. Just set back about 1700 times there. So here, just going to put in a gap to kind of break it up, and I'm thinking I should have done that further along as well, because obviously if you look at a real ship, I'll pop up a picture now, you don't just kind of have loads of windows unsupported. They always kind of have like mullions going up in them. But yeah, this one, I don't know, might look alright without them, but I could adjust it later if I need to. Yeah, I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to do the side, so I'm going to leave that for a minute. And while we're doing that, we're going to work on sort of the interior layout. So we're going to use the section plane tool, and we're going to get rid of the Y axis. So if we look down, this is our first deck. This deck will be most likely ship crew cabins, so the crew that actually runs the ship. The next deck down is a bit bigger. Now this will be sort of amenities for everyone. So the front section will be crew and staff like facilities, so the canteen and the galley, and then the kind of mess area where they eat. And then at the back will be the galley and the mess for patients, to keep them kind of separated. And then if you go down a bit more, this is just above the sort of entrance. We'll have like wards and sort of recovery areas for people and all that kind of stuff. Up towards the front we'll have storage because it's a bit more difficult to fit stuff in up at the front, but we'll then have wards and patient beds and all that kind of stuff. Then here is going to be the interesting one. Here you will come in, and I'm gonna place blocks down just so I can see all this properly. So that'll go across there, and this will be a kind of admittance area, and it'll also, if we just go up a wee bit, it'll also connect to a staircase that'll sit about here somewhere. I might make that a square corner and have that as the staircase, and then obviously the elevator will be here behind the funnel, or in front of the funnel, I'm not sure yet. So if the funnel sits about here and the sort of elevators here, this will be your lobby, and then in front of that will be sort of urgent kind of care places, so stuff like trauma units and all that kind of stuff that you hear them talking about 24 hours in any. And then there'll be like surgery and that kind of thing where people go if they've like broken their arm or they need like, I don't know, stitched up or something. That's where they go. And then towards the back will be kind of like a waiting area, survivor room, waiting area / survivor room. So it'll be a room that everyone will be put into at the start. So say for the idea I had about last week, where there's going to be a natural disaster, say there's 20 people, which is quite a lot for this game to kind of manage by yourself, 20 AI people. They will all sit in here until you can kind of manage where they need to go. Then down below that, this is going to be where it gets really sort of massive. The front will be storage still because it's difficult to build in the bow. Then you'll have more wards and more kind of casualty areas. Then at the back, because the engines will be so tall, they'll take up a lot of this area. So the engines will be about here, and then at the back will be more kind of equipment and possibly a workshop as well. So that means the workshop has quick access up to the ribs, which will be on the next level. And then if we look, don't need to go that far down, this deck here will be mostly fuel tanks and water tanks, all the big tanks and stuff. And then a storage kind of area up at the front of the keel tunnel, then going back to the engine room. That's the basic idea for everything. So we'll start with a funnel, actually, because the funnel is going to be fairly crucial to all of that stuff. So the funnel doesn't need to be huge because we can kind of manage everything in fairly reasonable size of space. It just needs to be able to come down directly in the middle of here so that it can line up properly. So we're going to go with a 3x3 square, and that way it keeps everything nice and small. Okay, so we have our funnel going all the way from up down to the bottom, all the way to the top, and sort of ready to go. We can put everything into that later, but the main reason I'm putting that there is so that we can work out our staircase and our lift. So originally I was thinking our lift, elevator, whatever you want to call it, would go up in the middle, but now I'm sort of thinking it would be better if it went down each side. So one side had the staircase and the elevator, and then the other side was kind of like just ordinary. So say we have it on this side, then off to this side would be the lift, although I'll not do it on this side because we don't have as much room on this deck. So after a bit of footering about, I've came up with this. So yeah, it's really nothing fancy. It took me a ridiculously long amount of time to kind of just figure it out though. So basically this goes from deck 6, deck 5, deck 4, deck 3, deck 2, and then to deck 2. Then deck 1 will be accessed by a different crew access area. I've got these signs just to let you know it's a staircase, because in case you just don't want to open the door or something, I don't know. And then the elevator will go hopefully in the same room. So basically it's like a lift and staircase sort of area. So we'll have the elevator doors here, but I need to figure out how to work the elevator and what the elevator needs first before I can kind of plan all that out properly. There will of course be different little staircases around the place. I'm actually considering putting just a straight shaft with an elevator and then stairs going around the elevator. So that way you can get up to the bridge from down below in one sweep, and it just means that it keeps that all sort of separate. And like say they're dealing with a plague or something, it means all the crew can move about without getting infected with the bubonic plague. Highly unlikely, but you never know. Okay, so bit of work done on the bridge there. I've basically redone all the way. Well, I've kept the main shape of the bridge, so the bridge shape has stayed the same, but I've now got different windows. So hopefully that'll all work a bit nicer now and look a bit better. So what I'm doing now is putting on the roof of the bridge. Now, if you'll remember, we don't have a lot of room to spare. We've only got, what's that, 9 blocks, 2.5 meters to spare between the roof of the bridge and the top of the build area. So our mast is going to have to fold down, and I think so is our funnel, if I can figure out a way to do that. That's going to be a bit difficult, but hopefully we can do it in some way. We can maybe use fluid connectors or something like that for the funnel if they work with exhausts, which I think they do, because I think some people use hoses for exhausts. If a hose will work, then theoretically so will a fuel connector or a fluid connector, and that would get rid of that issue then. So what I'm doing now is just building like a kind of wall around the top of the bridge, and it makes it look a bit better, but it also then kind of provides a level of security on top of the bridge that you kind of, it's more difficult to fall off. Like if you're up here doing maintenance or something, you can't fall off into the sea. Might put a fence around it as well, but for now we'll stick with just this. I usually put a fence on it, but considering how much we're limited by on space, we'll leave that until we kind of see what more we have. Now what I'm going to do actually is put these ones there, and just make it a nicer corner. And drag that across like that and like that. There, now I've got a nice kind of shield around the top of the bridge. So I'm not going to work on the mast just yet because I want to figure out a few other things that I've got to do first. And one of them is the crew staircase. Now, I'd mentioned about the elevator. The elevator will go up sort of here, and it'll be accessed through the same sort of section as the staircase. So if we imagine, we'll turn off our symmetry. I'd said about the elevator being sort of in this corner here and going all the way down to deck 1, or no, deck 2. What I'm then thinking is that a crew staircase could go in this space in here, and that would lead all the way up to the crew area on the bridge. So on the bridge there'll be the main bridge where all the navigation stuff is, but then in here you also have the office where there's gonna be kind of like planning rooms and that kind of thing. Stuff that you would have on the bridge in a real ship, hopefully. And to get up to them we need another staircase, which is where this one will come in. So I was looking at elevators and I think I found one that should work, and basically I'll actually get the microcontroller up now. It is elevator controller, one of these ones here, 9 level elevator. And 9, do we need 9? Let's see, that one has 6. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. 9 level might be a bit overkill. That one has 6, which is perfect. That one only has 4. So we'll go with this 6 one. I think this is the right one. Yes, it is. Yeah, all it needs is the position from a distance sensor, I think, and then the slider speed. Just increase and decrease the speed of the slider as it goes up and down, and then you put in the position of the floors here, and yeah, it just kind of does all the work for you. So cut out a wee section here for it and pop it in, and we'll use this kind of gap here as our slider, or as where our slider will go. I think I just deleted a bit of wall there by accident that I shouldn't have. Yeah. So, that doesn't actually work out very well, does it? Because this doesn't sit flush. Okay. Let's see. If we make a wall across there and use that as our kind of guideline, and then we can just have this area in here void, I suppose. Be a good place for microcontrollers and that kind of stuff. But it still works for our slider, I think, so that's alright. So, the slider then will need to go, I think you start with this elevator at the top, I think. Although I suppose it doesn't really matter, as long as it can kind of decipher where it actually is. And then we put that down like that. We'll just fill in this wall here while we're here, so that we don't run into any issues with running out of space and that kind of thing. And then bring that down there. So that's big enough space for an elevator, I think. We might need to cut out a wee area underneath it for where it will sit when it's not in use, so kind of like a dip down in the floor like that. It shouldn't be an issue because there's going to be fuel tanks under there, so we can just kind of hide it in them. So yeah, that should be everything we need space wise for the elevator. Can work on the actual elements of the elevator that we need for it to work later on, but that's enough for us to kind of decide where our staircase can go. So this little area in here, 3, 3, and then the wall in the middle. So if we imagine that you're coming out of here, so let's see, we'll cut out the floor. That's what we'll do. And we're actually going to move over this wall here a bit, or maybe, I suppose we can make it unsymmetrical. Not a problem with that, and just have a kind of dip in the wall for the door to go into. And then this one will kind of house the staircase. So you walk into the staircase sort of room, And at the top of the stairs, you've got a kind of landing area. And then you've got the stairs going down. And they will go down to there. I think 2 is all the space we need in between the 2 stairs. So we'll go with that. And then we'll put this one in like this. Just hope it all lines up. Oh, oh. Don't want to be using any space we don't need to. Okay, that's perfect. Oh, no it's not actually. That one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of stairs. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How big is this gap? Oh, it's 9, isn't it? So we are going to end up with an odd number anyway. That should be okay. Right. Let's delete this floor. And we'll delete all the floors going down as well. Actually, we'll drag all this down to the very, very bottom. Actually, this could go down to the very bottom because it's the crew one. Now, I should measure how far across it needs to go first. Okay, that should be alright. So, now we're going to copy and paste all of this. How do we do this now? There we go. And does it come up higher? Nope, that's us. So, copy, and then... Did I delete all the floors in between? Yeah, I did. Okay. Copy, and then... Paste, is that in the right place actually? Yes, it is. Okay. So, just like that, we've got a staircase. I probably should have put all these bits in so I don't have to copy and paste them all. But... it's only a small amount of stuff. So yeah, that now goes all the way from the top level of the ship. Ignore the kind of gap in between, you're not going to fall off in the real thing, hopefully. So yeah, all the way from the top, all the way down to the bottom of the boat. So that should be a success then. And then we'll just have a crew door here. It does look pretty small, like, but it should be enough room to get past. So, staircase is in, and now we can test it. So, hopefully we can walk up it without, have to turn on infinite electric, just open the door. Yeah, hopefully we can walk up it without sort of hitting our head on anything. So, we'll test this one first. Go down, you've got, well, elevator will be there, it won't be as exposed as that. So, we can walk up and down this one, no problem. I think that's already fairly established because it's just a very basic one. The challenging thing will be getting up and down this one here, so the crew staircase, but by the looks of it, it's completely fine. Not ideal, but it gets the job done, and then we're on the bridge. Bridge doesn't have a fantastic view of the bow, but I think that's kind of the case with a lot of boats this kind of shape. I've fallen through there. So, there's our bridge, and then we can walk out this door. There's a funnel, and then up on top we have our sort of bridge, what do they call it? Shield. And I think that's a fairly successful end to the episode then. So, thanks for watching, and if you have anything you'd like to say about the boat, if you like it or don't like it, let me know, and I will try and put it in to the boat. And especially about this area, let me know what you think about this, because it's alright, but I'm not totally loving it. Sort of thinking we should maybe cut it back a bit so that the bridge has a better view of the bow. And actually, just while I'm remembering, I'm going to test this here to make sure that we can actually walk down here, because it's pretty important that we can. Yep, all good. So, with that success, I think we'll end it there. So, see you later. Bye bye.